Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I am Naisha Nicole, and today I really wanted to dive into something that is often discussed more so now than ever, but sometimes you don't necessarily hear it as related to success, and that's mental health. We often hear about strategies to help people deal with stressful times, mental health, manage your time. But what they really don't talk about is your mental health, and how it suffers when you're not in a good place, whether it's in your career or whether it's, you know, just in life, or you feeling like you lack the success that you deserve. And sometimes how that takes a toll on your mental health. And, for me, working in healthcare for as long as I have and seeing stuff that like what happened in West Palm Beach, Florida, how that nurse was brutally attacked. It just makes me want to talk about mental health even more so now, the way that the healthcare landscape is becoming. So that's the point of this video, is just trying to connect mental health just with overall performance and overall success. So when you talk about success, what typically comes to mind? Basically, productivity, how much you can focus, creativity, and your ability to basically take on challenges. But the truth is that all of those are just qualities that's really truly tied to your mental health. Because if you don't have good mental health, or you're not in what I call mental health shape, how are you going to be productive? How are you going to focus? How are you going to be creative? Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, my creative juices just, it never flows when what I call myself being in a mental health slump. Um, and honestly, it can be overwhelming, and it can completely stress you out and constantly distract you from whatever your goals are. Um, when you don't address your mental health, that's a form of neglect to yourself. Um, because I truly believe that having a mental health that's in shape, um, it really truly dives into who you are overall as a person. um if everything always feels overwhelming, then to me that tells me that something within your mental is lacking. If everything always feels like you're completely burnt out and you're stressed out, you don't have enough energy, then something mentally, to me, is lacking. And it's tough to try to figure out what that is, especially in today's world where everybody's just trying to hold on to a job, or you're just trying to get to work, do your job so that you can take care of your family. But the thing about it is when you're mentally healthy, you show up. You show up not just for you, but you show up for your family, you show up for your job, you're energized, you have more clarity. You're pretty much ready to take on whatever comes your way. Um, and you're also more creative. I think that for me, especially when I'm in the best mental shape health, it pulls out all of that creativity that I may have, and it allows me to give my best performance. And that's really truly was going to allow you to move forward in whatever you want to do, however much success you want to have. Um, and it's hard, you can't just train yourself to be mentally resilient to everything that goes on, because you're human. There's going to always be obstacles, there's going to always be setbacks and unexpected things that happen. But when you can train your mind and you can get to that point where you are mentally resilient, I think that that's when you um, have the ability to bounce back from all of those difficult times. And you kind of adapt to this change, or you allow yourself to keep moving forward despite whatever may go on, despite any adversity that you may experience. And I don't know, have you guys ever experienced some things and you're just like, you know what? I just can't. Like, I just can't mentally deal with it. I don't want to physically deal with it. And you just kind of go into the shell because I used to do that too. And the thing about it is if you're not taking care of your mental health, it's going to be harder for you to bounce back when things go wrong. It's going to be easier for you to be discouraged. You're not going to be motivated and you're going to struggle with self doubt. You're going to constantly doubt yourself. You're going to constantly doubt the things that you want to do. And this is me speaking directly to my healthcare workers. In this day and age, you just have to be mentally resilient. You have to kind of go back to the basics of your healthcare training, and you have to protect your mental. You have to do everything within your power to protect yourself, to protect yourself mentally. And it's so hard. It's so hard because every single day you get calls from your management asking you, can you work overtime when you've already worked overtime? Or, there's things maybe within the hospital system that you work on or that you work with that you don't necessarily agree with, but you don't have the power to change anything. There's also, being a nurse practitioner, I was a nurse for many, many years. And I mean, I'm still a nurse at heart, of course, it's just my titles change. But, there's times where you may feel like you're constantly being blamed for every wrong thing that goes on. And I'm here to tell you, as long as you are trying your absolute best, as long as you are putting one foot forward and you just keep moving and you do the best that you can possibly do for your patient, then you have nothing to hang your head about. You have nothing to be ashamed about. And it's so hard nowadays, speaking directly to my nurses, to be a nurse. It just is because the demands are so high. There's so much that's asked of nursing nowadays. It's so much. And there's very little reward. The only reward that you get is the fact that you swore an oath to take care of people. But even in those dark times for people, they don't even appreciate the things that you've done. And you're not doing it for appreciation. You're doing it because that's something that you chose to do and that's something that you love. But even then, you really need to focus on taking care of your mental health. And I don't mean like going to get, you know, spa days and all of that. That's great, but really exercising your mental health and leaving work at work. And I know it's sometimes hard, especially when tragedy strikes, and like it did in West Palm Beach, Florida, where, a nurse brutally attacked and beaten and nearly died. And it's kind of like, as a nurse, what what do you think? What do you think as a nurse? You're auto like, and then you have to go back to work and you have to deal with the, you know, the things that's happened, and you have to constantly keep in the back of your mind, what if a patient does that to me? What if I'm in that situation? And there's no getting around it. I mean, and it's really hard to talk about. It truly is because as if you've ever worked in the hospital, I'm sure you've been in a situation where, you've had some patients that are sick. Like let's not pretend like these people aren't sick. And I think that when you're sick, you're not the best version of yourself. And that typically has maybe gotten in your face or that's caused some distress. And it's like, how do you deal with that? And to be in this career field where the pay, although people think is great, is not compared to what you're asked. And every time that something goes wrong, you're on the front line of blame. So, you really have to, focus on doing things that's going to give you emotional stamina to deal with all of that. Um, you have to learn from those setbacks, learn from those mistakes and adapt. Um, and it's tough, being in healthcare, it's so tough to be able to do that. Um, and just leaning on the relationships that you've built over time and hoping that, those relationships, help you when you're dealing with, times like in West Palm Beach, Florida, and other issues that's happened. Um, it's just really hard all the way around, and I wish that more jobs paid attention to when people are going through mental health issues, because sometimes people show up to work and they seem like their normal self, but then you hear about something that may have happened to them or something that they may have done to themselves, and then you can't quite, wrap your head around how could that happen. Well, they probably was suffering in silence, and it probably was things that you may have seen or maybe, swept under the rug. And when it gets to that point, it's tough to come out of that. Um, when your mental health is suffering, it's so tough to get out of that. And you need support. You need support of, your family. You need support of your loved ones, whether it's your spouse. You need support of your children. And it's just tough trying to handle criticism when you're mentally not in the best spot. And I wish that some of these jobs would take heed to what happened in West Palm Beach and not allow it to happen. And I hope that their facility is offering some sort of extended amount of counseling and things of that nature. Like, there's nothing wrong with getting counseling. Um, because like I said, being in healthcare is a lot. And I could sit here all day and tell you some of the great things that I've seen in healthcare and some of the horrific things that I've seen. But that's not going to solve any problems. Because when your mental health is compromised, it's hard to stay level headed. It's hard to look at the good when you have a compromised mental health. Um, and that's when you start to withdraw, you start to snap, um, you start to avoid any of those important conversations that you need to have. Um, you constantly feel like I said, you feel like you're overwhelmed and you feel like you can't make decisions, and you just don't feel like yourself, and that can last for a very long time. Um, because whether you are able to relax your mind by picking up a hobby, whether it's meditation, whether it's reading, do something that's fun. Like, try to do things that might be fun for you. Running, working out. I've known a lot of people to tell me that like actually running has truly helped them mentally. It helped them focus more. Um, and it was like their therapy. It was like their ability to get deep into their thoughts and truly just kind of sort things out. Um, and I think when your mental health starts to deteriorate, you start to burn out. Um, and that will obviously affect you in your career. That'll affect you in your life, because if you're not able to, make any money or have a good livelihood, then you're 9 times out of 10, going to be in a high pressure situation to make money, and you're just going to burn yourself out. Um, and that burnout is harmful to your body, it's harmful to your well-being. And it actually like will shorten your lifelong longevity. It's it's one of those things, like, if you're constantly running on empty and you're constantly pushing yourself past your limits, you're basically setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to be exhausted, to be disengaged, and eventually all of that just catches up to you, and it'll pile on you like something tomorrow. It'll just pile on you so bad, and then it's just like, what do you do? Um, Ultimately, your mental health isn't just something that will affect your personal life and your career. It's truly a fundamental part of your well-being. It impacts every single thing that you can possibly do. And I'm just going to encourage you in the wake of things that's been happening, healthcare workers losing their jobs and being attacked, which the being attacked thing isn't necessarily a new thing. It's just never been that brutal. It's never been to the point where, someone has had that extensive that I can remember of injuries. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame that that had to happen to bring eyes to a situation. And, you know, it's just something that will affect you all the way around. It impact your ability to grow. And I just encourage you, like I said, whether in I was specifically talking to the healthcare workers, but just people that's also in, high powered careers, high stress careers. Just prioritize your mental health, especially if you want to unlock your full potential. Because if you start doing that, then you'll notice yourself be different. You'll definitely become more resilient. You'll become more focused. I do believe you'll become more productive, and you'll be more equipped with the different challenges that's going to come. Because honestly, life challenges is just going to be there. There is absolutely nothing you can do to avoid life challenges. Let's just get that out of the way. Things are going to be difficult. So I'm not saying all of this in saying it like, oh, well, nothing's going to be hard. Life in general is hard, especially now. Life is just hard for everybody all the way around. But you have to take care of your mind. You have to set boundaries. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do is to set boundaries, because you've already taught people how to treat you, and you've already taught people what boundaries you will allow them to cross because they've already done it. So you have to go back to the drawing board, and you have to set or reset boundaries and be totally okay with whatever the outcome is. You have to seek support, seek counseling, seek therapy when you need it. And you know when you need it. Now, whether you want to admit it or not, you definitely know when you need to get a little bit more help. And you just need to listen to that gut. That gut feeling, as I would say, is like in the healthcare world, it's like a nursing judgment gut. It's like every nurse has this gut feeling. It's like if they have a patient that may not be doing well, it's like every single nurse has the ability to have that nursing judgment like gut, and they try to get ahead of things that could potentially happen that's going to be negative. So what I would challenge is for you to develop that gut, because it's there, and you know when you need more. You need to make self-care a priority for you. And that's not selfish. Wanting to elevate your self-care does not take away from anything in your life. It doesn't. And if people make you feel like you putting focus on your self-care is or making your self-care a priority, if they make you feel horrible for that, they're not it. Trust me. Because honestly, you deserve to thrive not only personally but professionally in life. And a healthy mind is always going to be the key to career success, is going to be the key to personal success and fulfillment. It's just going to be the keys that you need in order to truly tap into the person that you are. And just know that your mental health is definitely worth everything. It is. And if you have to let certain things go, whether it is a job, and I'm not telling everybody to go quit their job. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying sometimes you have a toxic job. We all know that. Sometimes you have toxic friends. Sometimes you have toxic family members. Sometimes, this toxicity is constantly following you. And then if that's the case, you probably need to figure out whether or not it is or isn't you. But the only way you're going to do that is by getting the extra support that you need and tuning into yourself, taking care of yourself. My healthcare workers, please, please, please stay strong, especially in this trying time. We're all on edge because we don't know what's going to happen with healthcare. And just like me, just like you all, I've sworn an oath to take care of people to the best of my ability. And, I think that it's important to understand that healthcare in general, where maybe it wasn't a business, it has certainly become that way. And I think it's been that way for a long time. I just think that we just never acknowledged it as such. I think that because healthcare workers want to do right by their patients, want to do right by the hospital and all these other entities, sometimes we don't realize that it's a business. It's a business for them. And the administrators are making it hard, especially for nurses, because they feel like somehow we're a dime a dozen. But honestly, if you look at statistics, you'll see that nursing, people aren't going to school or jumping, through hoops to even become a nurse. People aren't doing that anymore. People aren't actually jumping through hoops to become physicians. And a lot of that has to do with it's tough. Like it's tough. Have to deal with a lot, and you don't make as much as people think that you do make. And all the while, you sometimes deal with abuse, you deal with all of these negative things. And so, where it used to be people would look at you a certain way when you're like, "Oh, I'm a nurse," it's like they looked at you like with this proud look. And now it's like, you know, not that way. And I think that what COVID did was show a lot of nurses that they don't have to take the bare minimum. And I think that now it's become somewhat of a business on both sides. But, at the end of the day, the hospital system is always going to win. And people are always going to be sick and people are always going to need help. So, you know, in the process of knowing all of those things, and I think it's important to talk about it and it's important to know all of those things. And in the process of knowing all of those things, I do feel like you need to take care of yourself. You need to tune into your mental health. You need to do all the things that you possibly need to do to continue to thrive, not only personally but professionally. Um, Continue to grow. Continue to unlock your full potential because I know that you can do it and continue to build. That's what I would say. Continue to be resilient and fight against it. Fight against those demons that's talking to you, that's trying to keep your mental health down. Just fight against it and prioritize you, because you deserve to thrive. And so just remember, a healthy mind is always going to be a key to success in any way, shape, or form. Is always going to be a key. And so hopefully you like this live. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. And if you have any questions, leave it in the chat. And I appreciate any and everyone that has viewed this. Thank you. My name is Naisha Nicole. Peace.